In 1959, young Lucinda Embry stares at the sky, hearing strange, whispering voices that no one else can. Her teacher, Miss Taylor, calls her for class, but Lucinda remains frozen as the whispers grow louder. During class, Miss Taylor announces that the students will create drawings of what they think the future will look like. These drawings will be sealed in a time capsule for the school's anniversary. When Miss Taylor collects the papers, she notices that Lucinda has filled hers with a long string of numbers instead of a drawing. She gently scolds her and takes the paper before Lucinda can finish. The next day, during the ceremony, the principal leads the burial of the time capsule. Miss Taylor spots Lucinda watching from a distance, but when she looks again, the girl has vanished. That night, a search party combs the school. Miss Taylor eventually finds Lucinda hiding behind a locked door, her fingers bleeding from scratching numbers into the wood. Terrified, Lucinda begs her to make the voices stop. 50 years later, astrophysics professor John Kessler and his young son Caleb spend the night looking at Saturn through their telescope. When John says they're probably the only life forms in the universe, Caleb loses interest and goes to watch TV. Before bed, Caleb reminds his father that tomorrow is the school's 50th anniversary. John tucks him in, signing, "Together forever," a phrase they shared with Caleb's late mother, Allison. The next morning, John lectures his MIT students on the theory of randomness, arguing that all events are coincidences and life itself is a chemical accident. When a student asks what he truly believes, John admits that sometimes things just happen for the wrong reasons. After class, his colleague Phil tries to set him up with his sister-in-law, but John remembers Caleb's school event and rushes off. At the school, an older Miss Taylor leads the ceremony to open the time capsule. Each student receives an envelope from it. When Caleb pushes forward, his hearing aid starts buzzing, and Miss Taylor hands him Lucinda's envelope, the one filled entirely with numbers. Caleb looks at it curiously, unaware that a mysterious man is watching him from afar. When he glances back, the man has vanished. That evening, John finds the strange paper in Caleb's bag. Thinking it belongs to the school, he tells Caleb to return it tomorrow and places it on the counter. Later that night, as he cleans up after spilling his drink, John accidentally sets the glass on the paper. Curious, he wipes it off and notices a familiar date among the numbers, 9/11, with the digits 2996 beside it. Searching online, he realizes it matches the number of people who died in the Twin Towers attack. Shaken, John studies the paper more closely and circles other number sequences. Each one seems to correspond to a major disaster and its death toll from the past 50 years. Then he spots a series that hasn't happened yet and drops his glass in shock. The next day, John tells Phil about his discovery. The numbers appear to be dates, death counts, and coordinates of past and future tragedies. 3 remain, one of which is tomorrow, predicting 81 deaths. John even finds his late wife Allison's death among the numbers, but Phil remains skeptical, believing John's grief is clouding his judgment. Seeking answers, John visits Miss Taylor, who recalls the night she found Lucinda scratching numbers on the door, whispering frantically. She tells him Lucinda has been dead for years. At home, John calls the school for more information but gets distracted when he sees Caleb near a strange car. He rushes outside to find that Caleb was handed a smooth black stone by an unknown man. Furious, John warns him not to talk to strangers. Later, John's sister Grace visits, offering to watch Caleb so John can relax. She encourages him to make peace with their father, a pastor, because Allison would have wanted Caleb to know his grandfather. That night, John waits anxiously by the TV, expecting the next tragedy to happen at midnight, but nothing does. The next afternoon, Caleb calls, reminding him it's his turn to carpool. John drives through a storm but gets stuck in traffic. While checking his GPS, he suddenly realizes the remaining numbers are coordinates, and today's predicted disaster is set to occur exactly where he is. Before he can act, a plane crashes across the highway in front of him, erupting in flames. John rushes toward the wreckage, desperately trying to help survivors, but the chaos is overwhelming. Later, the news confirms 81 fatalities, exactly as Lucinda's numbers predicted. Phil visits John's house and finds him still shaken. John insists the numbers are warnings about 2 more coming disasters. Phil urges him to stay calm and not do anything reckless. That night, a stranger watches John's house. Upstairs, Caleb awakens to faint whispering voices and sees one of the pale, silent men through the window. When John hears Caleb scream, he rushes upstairs. Looking outside, he sees the same figure watching them. John storms out, shouting for the man to leave, but he's already gone. The next morning, desperate for answers, John tracks down Lucinda's daughter, Diana, and her little girl, Abby. He follows them to a museum, introduces himself, and convinces Diana to talk over a drink. Eventually, he reveals that her mother predicted future tragedies. Alarmed, Diana storms off, calling Abby to leave. John chases after her, pleading for help, warning her that 170 people will die in New York tomorrow and 33 more 3 days later, on October 19th. Terrified, Diana refuses to believe him and drives away. That night, John cleans his gun and watches the news, which reports a heightened terror alert. Outside, the same mysterious men are seen watching his home again. John discovers that tomorrow's coordinates point to a busy New York City intersection and calls the FBI to warn them. The next morning, he drops Caleb off with Grace and drives to New York. When he arrives, the streets are packed. He tries to alert a police officer about the threat, but the officer dismisses him. Agents nearby mistake John for a suspect, forcing him to flee toward the subway station. Scanning the crowd, John spots a nervous man acting suspiciously and chases him through the train platform. The authorities follow, believing John is the culprit. Inside the train, John warns a mother to get off, but she doesn't trust him. The officers catch up, only to find out John's suspect is just a shoplifter. Suddenly, an oncoming train loses control after hitting a faulty rail. John shouts for everyone to move as the train derails, plowing through the station and crashing into another train. In the chaos, he dives to protect the mother and child from being crushed as the horrific disaster unfolds. After the catastrophic train crash, John emerges among the traumatized survivors, haunted by what he has just witnessed. Back home, he tries to wash away the horror. When he later picks up Caleb, they find Diana and Abby waiting for them on the patio. Diana reveals that October 19th, the final date on Lucinda's prophecy, is the day her mother predicted her own death. They drive to Lucinda's old house, and along the way, Diana mutters that knowing the future is pointless since death is inevitable. John, however, believes that Lucinda's paper proves the future can be known, and maybe even changed. He insists that if he'd had it sooner, he could have saved his wife, Allison, and now he must understand it to protect Caleb. When they arrive at the abandoned house, they leave the sleeping children in the car and step inside. Diana suddenly notices that what everyone assumed to be the number 33 after October 19th is actually E, written backward. Inside, Diana explains that her mother often heard whispering voices that told her terrible things. Lucinda had moved into this isolated home to prepare, though Diana never knew what she meant. The two find a room covered in news clippings of disasters, each one that Lucinda predicted. On the wall hangs a drawing of Ezekiel's chariot, which Diana says her mother used to stare at for hours. When they enter Lucinda's bedroom, Diana grows uneasy and urges John to leave. As he turns, he steps on a smooth black stone, just like the one Caleb received. Meanwhile in the car, Caleb wakes to the whispers and rouses Abby as several mysterious men approach. Inside the house, John lifts the bed and finds more stones beneath it, along with the words, "Everyone else," scratched into the wood. Realizing Yi meant everyone else, he understands the horrifying message. Everyone else will die. Outside, the whispering men reach the car, calling softly for the children to come with them. When Abby opens the door, Caleb blares the horn, alerting their parents. John sprints outside and demands answers, but the men vanish into the woods. He chases one, draws his gun, and orders him to stop. The stranger turns, opening his mouth to unleash a blinding beam of pure light before disappearing. Back home, John concludes that the final date has no coordinates because it marks the end of the world. Diana refuses to believe it, but John insists every other prediction has come true. That night, the parents lie beside their children, terrified. Caleb confides that he hears the whispering voices too, and asks if Lucinda did as well. When John admits it, Caleb asks if he's going to die. John promises he'll never let that happen. The next morning, Abby shows John a picture she colored from Lucinda's house, a drawing of a burning sun. The realization hits John. The final event is a solar flare. He rushes everyone to the MIT observatory, where he tells Phil that his previous research on solar activity was right. Lucinda's message wasn't personal, it was a warning to humanity. A massive solar flare is about to destroy Earth's ozone layer, incinerating everything. Overwhelmed, Diana asks if they can survive underground. John hesitates, but says it's possible, so Diana suggests hiding in a cave she used to visit as a child. They race home to prepare. While packing, John briefly calls his estranged father, warning him about the coming disaster. His father refuses to run, saying he accepts God's plan and asks John if he can do the same. The call drops before John can answer. When John checks on Caleb, he finds him in a trance, scribbling numbers onto paper. When John grabs his hand, Caleb starts scratching them onto the table with his fingernails. The sight jolts John's memory of Lucinda's bloody hands years ago. Desperate for answers, John drives them back to the old school gym, removes the door Lucinda once scratched, and takes it home. He tells Diana that Lucinda's final message wasn't finished. She must have carved the coordinates on that door. Diana, seeing he's become obsessed, drives away with the kids toward the caves. When John scrapes away the paint, He reveals a set of coordinates. Realizing Diana took the wrong path, he speeds after them. During the drive, Diana tries to call John, but the signal is gone. They stop at a gas station, and Diana goes inside to buy supplies while the kids wait in the car. On the store TV, a government alert confirms the approaching solar flare and urges citizens to take shelter underground. While Diana is distracted, Caleb sneaks out to call his father on a payphone. Diana catches him and apologizes to John for running away, telling him their location. John explains that he's found the true coordinates, Lucinda's house, and insists that's where the children will be safe. Diana refuses, convinced the caves will protect them. John pleads with her to listen, shouting that the caves won't shield them from the sun's radiation. Diana notices a black stone on the payphone as she hangs up. Outside, the whispering men drive off with her car and the children inside. Panicked, Diana steals another car and races after them, but a truck crashes into her at high speed. John arrives moments later amid the chaos and finds her car wrecked. Paramedics struggle to revive Diana, but at the stroke of midnight, she flatlines, October 19th, just as her mother predicted. John holds her hand in grief and finds another black stone clenched in her palm. He drives to Lucinda's house, where he finds the children safe and surrounded by the Whisper people. John points his gun at them, but Caleb reassures him they mean no harm. A massive spacecraft descends, radiating light. The strangers reveal their true, angelic forms and tell John that only those who heard their call, Caleb and Abby, can go. Heartbroken, John kneels beside his son, telling him to be brave and protect Abby. He gives Caleb his family locket, saying they'll always be together. Caleb hugs him tightly, then walks hand in hand with Abby toward the glowing vessel. Inside, Caleb turns back and signs "Together Forever" before the craft descends into the sky. John watches as dozens of similar ships rise into space, carrying other chosen children away. As dawn breaks, he drives to his father's house while the world descends into panic. The sky ignites with fiery light as the solar flare strikes Earth. John embraces his family one last time, finding peace in their reunion as the flames engulf the planet. In a distant, Earth-like world, Caleb and Abby step out of the ship into a luminous field. They run toward a towering tree of life, symbolizing a new beginning for humanity. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.